Investments and Land Management for Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. I'm your chairperson, Keone Souza. We have Vice Chair John Wahe IV. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Ahuna?
Ew.
Trustee Akaka?
Ew.
Trustee Akina?
Aloha mai kako.
Trustee Alapa? Trustee Galuteria?
Ew.
Chair Kahele?
Present.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Waihe'e?
Present.
Chair Souza?
Ew.
You have 9.
And mahalo members, and mahalo for your patience. We have quorum as I'm traveling through New York on my son's baseball. So mahalo nui. Joining the trustees today is Kapo Nui, Keishawn, along with numerous support staff. I want to call on Keishawn to announce the administrative staff joining us here this morning.
Aloha kakayaka kako, mahalo nui, Chair, Vice Chair, and Trustees. This morning we have with us from administration in support of this meeting, our Interim Administrator and CEO, Summer Silva, our Investment Director and Interim CFO, Ryan Lee, our Budget Chief, Grace Chen, our General Counsel, Everett Ota, our Associate General Counsel, Roselle Agag, our Director of Communications, Bill Brennan, and our IT team, Kevin Chalk and Kyle Saucier. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Keishawn. All right, this meeting can be viewed via live stream on OHA's website at www.oha.org/livestream and on OLED TV. If you'd like to testify on any agenda item during the Zoom meeting, please raise your hand when that item is announced. When called upon, you'll be moved from attendee to panelist and given the ability to turn on your camera and unmute yourself during your testimony. Once you're finished, we ask that you mute your microphone and you return to attendee. Public testimony should be limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda and will occur prior to any listed item's conclusion or vote. If you begin to address any other issues not on today's meeting agenda, the ILM chair will call you out of order and direct you to limit your testimony to items listed on the agenda. Testifiers' mics will be unmuted when it is your turn to testify. If you're not audible, you'll be muted and the next testifier will be called. All testimony online will be limited to 5 minutes. Your mic will be automatically muted once you have completed your oral testimony, or if your allotted time for testimony expires. Please log off after testifying, otherwise staff may be forced to remove you. All right, members, our first item of business is the approval of minutes from the Committee on Investment and Land Management dated May 27, 2026.
Mr.
Do we have
Chair,
anyone signed up to testify? Yes, Trustee Aquino.
I move for the approval of the May 27th, 2026 minutes.
All right, motion made by Trustee Aquino. Members, any questions? Any comments? Any discussion? All right, seeing none, call for the vote.
Trustee Ahuna?
Aye.
Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa?
Yes.
Trustee Galuteria?
Aye.
Chair Kahele?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Waihe'e?
Yes.
Chair Souza?
Aye.
We have 9.
All right, members, motion passes. Mahalo nui. Next item on the agenda is item number 3, new business action item ILM 26-07. Members, I wanted to make note that I decided to bring this item to the Investment and Land Management Committee to do the due diligence and assess the investment, since the board has specific investment guidelines for assessing potential investments. We also posted the agenda for this meeting early to give ample time for beneficiaries to give testimony and weigh in on their comments or concerns. In order to begin this discussion, the chair motions at this time to approve, to authorize and expend up to $172,500 for due diligence activities associated with the potential acquisition by the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, OHA, of KITV, Inc. and Kiku, LLC, including related assets, real property interests, broadcast licenses, and transaction matters from the Allen Media Group. Due diligence activities shall be completed in 2 phases. Phase 1, up to $45,000, and phase 2, up to $127,500, for a total amount not to exceed $172,500. Now, at this time, the chair will take testifiers. Anyone signed up to testify on this item?
Yes, you have 2 testifiers. The first testifier is Jermaine Myers in person and 1 online.
Okay, sure. Aloha, Jermaine.
Aloha, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Jermaine. Aloha.
Is it okay to testify?
Yes, it is.
Mahalo. Aloha, Honorable Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers, a Nanakuli Hawaiian Homestead lessee and OHA beneficiary. I am testifying in strong opposition to action item ILM 2607. Trustees, my concern today is not simply the proposed expenditure of up to $172,500 for due diligence regarding the possible acquisition of KITV, KIKU, and related media assets, but also public trust concerns raised by the reconsideration of a proposal that was rejected by a majority of the board less than 1 month ago. On May 28, 2026, Chair Kahele requested that BOT 2607 be waived from the Committee on Budget and Finance and brought directly before the Board of Trustees. The board approved that waiver request and subsequently entered executive session to discuss the proposed expenditure for due diligence related to the acquisition opportunity. When the board returned to open session, the measure failed by a vote of 4 in favor and 5 opposed. Trustees Kahele, Souza, Gayutera, and Ahuna voted in favor. Trustees Waihe'e, Akina, Akaka, Alapa, and Lindsay voted against the expenditure. That vote represented a majority decision of the Board of Trustees. The May 28 vote was not a procedural delay, a tie vote, or a request for additional information. It was a majority decision of the Board of Trustees to reject the expenditure. The proposal was brought to the board through a waiver requested by Board Chair Kahele. Chair Kahele subsequently voted in support of the expenditure. Trustee Souza also voted in support of the expenditure, and now, as chair of the Investment and Land Management Committee, is presiding over consideration of substantially the same proposal less than 1 month later. Trustees, if a proposal that has already been considered and rejected by a majority of the board can simply be brought back through a different committee process a few weeks later, beneficiaries may reasonably question whether board decisions have any finality at all. Beneficiaries should not have to wonder whether a failed proposal is truly rejected or merely delayed until another path can be found to advance it. Public trust depends on the belief that board decisions reflect principled governance and are not repeatedly revisited simply because the majority did not support the desired outcome. Beneficiaries deserve confidence that when the board reaches a decision, that decision will be respected. My second concern is priority. The packet asks OHA to authorize up to $172,500 in due diligence activities related to the possible acquisition of commercial television and media assets. Yet, throughout OHA's beneficiary engagement efforts, and most importantly, in my Native Hawaiian homestead community, which I am a neighborhood board member of, I consistently hear beneficiaries discussing housing, education, economic self-sufficiency, health care, culture preservation, and beneficiary services. I do not hear beneficiaries asking OHA to purchase television stations. Trustees are stewards of Native Hawaiian Trust resources. Stewardship requires more than determining whether OHA can afford to spend the money. It requires determining whether this expenditure reflects the priorities of the beneficiaries for whom OHA exists to serve. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the committee to reject action item ILM 26-07. Kia kuapu, God bless all of you.
Mahalo, Jermaine. Thank you so much. Next testifier. What if we have someone online?
We're going to move them from attendee to panelist.
Okay, thank you, Rochelle.
$133,500 being used for due diligence activities. I understand the growth our trust fund has received, but some Hawaiians like myself would say like it seems like it's the growth in capital is much more dire than the overall well-being of Hawaiians. In 2016, the trust fund was at about 330 million. Within 10 years, it has grown to more than double that amount. After reviewing the trust fund performance and asset collection report, I have questions regarding the beneficiary outcomes. Can the board provide specific outcome measures showing how the growth has translated into benefits for Native Hawaiians? Is the benefits received parallel to the growth the fund has received? Before spending the beneficiary funds on due diligence for a television station acquisition, can the board explain the specific measurable benefits this investment is expected to provide? And how does the board determine that this purchase is much more dire than investing this money into housing, health care, and education? I want to remind the board that through their programs alone, less than 100 Hawaiians are homeowners. Not many people watch television or cable anymore, as Kanaka have platforms on social media, and we also have many leaders in Lahui that uphold that kuleana to preserve and promote our culture through social media. So a great question to ask again is, how did the board determine that this opportunity provides greater benefit to Native Hawaiians and the alternative programs? For every dollar earned by the trust fund, how many cents are ultimately reaching Hawaiians through these programs? These services, housing, grants, or direct assistance. Through my personal experience, life has been hell. My mother, who is Kanaka Maoli, by the way, is dead. And she died houseless, sick, and untreated with mental health issues. What is OHA's mission? Every Hawaiian today, tomorrow, and for next generations to come deserves transparency, accountability, and clear evidence that these funds are advancing the well-being of our people. Mahalo for hearing my testimony, and as stewards of these trust assets, I respectfully ask that you demonstrate how these decisions will benefit Native Hawaiians in meaningful and measurable ways. Mahalo.
Mauli, thank you so much for your testimony. Aloha. Anyone else signed up to testify?
No one else is signed up.
All right, seeing no other testifiers, then public testimony on this item has now ended. At this time, we'll discuss the action item in open session unless there is a reason to recuse ourselves into executive session to deliberate or consult with OHA's attorneys regarding confidential due diligence activities for the potential acquisition opportunity, including acquisition and transaction strategy, negotiation-related matters, and the committees and boards' powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities pursuant to HRS 924, 925A3, and 925A4. And now I will leave this to corporate counsel, board counsel, or our investment director to stop the conversation if we need to move into executive session. Before I recognize Chair Kahele to speak about this action item, I also want to make note that this Investment and Land Management Committee decided to bring this back to the board also because this is a potentially equitable acquisition. And it remain consistent with every single acquisition, including land, potential walk-up units for housing, anything else that we do in this committee, we will always remain consistent in recommending that we take it a step further so we can justify why or why not. Does it align with our strategic plan? Does it align with our investment policy? How will this be able to affect change, in our Lahui and serve our people in the best possible way? And so at that time, at this time, I would like to recognize Chair Kahele to speak about this action item. Hello, Chair Kahele.
Okay, thanks, Chair Souza. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to action item ILM 2607, which is very different from the previous action item that the board had taken up prior. First and foremost, I want to commend the ILM chair for having the courage and the wherewithal to bring this back before the board, given the feedback that the board had received when, like the previous testifier mentioned, this was a waiver, it came before the board, but feedback from the community was that they, and also our trustees, that they needed more time to understand what this board of trustees was considering, that the proper vehicle for this action item was to go through the committee. The opportunity for the public to be able to testify and do it in an open session was something that was desired as well. And so that is exactly what has happened here. The ILM chair heeded those concerns and moved forward with not only agendizing this in the proper committee, which was the Investments and Land Management Committee after speaking to the administration, but then also posting the agenda weeks in advance, posting the action item over a week and a half in advance to give the general public the opportunity to prepare for this action item. Additionally, the action item, unlike the previous one, reveals the desire for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to do due diligence in the potential acquisition of local media stations KITV and KIKU from the Byron Allen Media Group. So that is named in the action item. It also, after consideration from trustee feedback, separates the financial resources into two phases, two really important phases. There's a phase one aspect of the action item that works together with three industry leaders on doing the necessary due diligence that would include non-disclosure agreements and working together with the Allen Media Group to prepare the information that would be required for OHA to do the proper due diligence, along with the timeline and the necessary parties that would be part of that due diligence effort, and then finally come to an agreement on what a final report and executive summary would look like. The second phase is phase two of the due diligence, which is really where the work is done. And that would include a extensive financial analysis of KITV's and KIQ's not just historical operating performance, but also developing a 5-year forward-looking assessment of its financial viability and growth potential. It would determine the fair market value of the station's assets. It would analyze all lease agreements, including key retransmission agreements, spectrum agreements, the technical infrastructure and operational capabilities of the station, to include the technical plant, tower, and transmitter infrastructure. And then finally, would provide OHA an overall assessment of the station's financial performance, operational viability, and fair market value. We believe that'll take about 90 days for that due diligence to be completed. Before then, the executive summary is provided back to the Board of Trustees. And the board will then have an opportunity to decide what are the next steps once that information is presented to the board. The board could decide at that point not to pursue the further acquisition of the asset, or the board could decide, depending on what the top line and bottom line numbers of what would be recommended for the board to consider, would then be put before a board vote, and then would be given the opportunity through a notice of intent or a letter of intent to Allen Media Group based on a proposed purchase price. You know, the way I look at it is, this is just like OHA looking to do due diligence on any other asset it's purchased in the past. Whether it's the Iwilei Business Center, the Lāma Kukui building we're sitting in right now, or any other financial acquisition, we do due diligence. And that's what this is. It's the opportunity to get into the weeds, to carefully analyze the financial viability of a potential asset and how that could complement and enhance OHA's mission. You know, that's essentially what the action item is. The number is still the same. It's up to not to exceed $172,500. The individuals that would be doing the due diligence for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs are industry leaders, notably Jason Elkin, who prior to this owned KHON and has extensive experience in the Hawaii market as well as the national market. John Heinen, Bill Wagner, these are industry leaders that have the capability to do this type of work and are willing to do this work because they believe in the potential opportunity, for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs through the potential acquisition of these mass media vehicles to reach the state of Hawaii's population and through this valuable broadcast spectrum represent a unique opportunity for OHA to advance the local and regional affairs and issues of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. So I'll stop there on the action item, Chair. I think that gives you a good summary of what is before your committee. I'm sure there's questions and a good discussion to have, but I'll defer back to you and happy to answer any questions that any trustees have.
Mauli Chair Kahele. Members, any discussion? ILM Vice Chair Waihe'e.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just want to explain, like, my main problem with the first action item was that I didn't like, was that it was being realigned from a budget that I didn't want to realign from. And my understanding with this one is that he's taking it from the budget that we had approved for the purpose of doing due diligence studies on investments. And the first time it was coming from a budget that I thought we could, use that money for more important things. It could become available for other things. Like, for me, I mean, however this goes, I've been trying and been wanting to reestablish the competitive community grants program next year. However that goes, I am trying to do that. But this budget wasn't one I was looking to realign from anyway. The worst case scenario by spending this money is that we have less money to do due diligence studies on other investments, but the chair of the ILM committee feels that this is an important one to assess, so I can support him. I know that there might be some people, because I know everyone in this room respects Trustee Souza tremendously, but they may be thinking, well, that's not enough for me to support this action. Do you see any investment opportunities by doing this? Do I? And I would say I do actually. I do think that if we can get this at a low enough cost and then clean it up and make it look good, we could probably sell it. We could probably flip it in 5 or 6 years and make a pretty good profit. So hopefully the due diligence studies will look at even things like that as an investment opportunity, and we'll see where that goes. Thank you.
Malo ILM Vice Chair Waihe'e for your comments. Trustee Galutario.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, we're not purchasing anything except the due diligence work. So it's a little premature to say we're going to be purchasing anything. Okay? But timing is key, and I'm talking to the board straight up. When purchasing anything, you folks know timing is key. This is the time for this particular station. We would get it at a really good cost. And we would be negligent if we didn't enter into due diligence. So I did some research. After the research, I wanted to share the findings because this is nothing unusual to indigenous peoples. Okay? In Aotearoa, Wakata Maori serves as a national broadcaster dedicated to uplifting Maori perspectives. In Canada, APTM, the Aboriginal Peoples Television Network, became the first national Indigenous-owned broadcaster. In Australia, NITV amplifies Aboriginal voices. TITV in Taiwan preserves the languages and traditions of the island's indigenous peoples. And in the far north, NRK Sampi broadcasts in Sami languages across Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. The global movement raises an important question for us, colleagues. What would it mean for Native Hawaiians to own major commercial broadcasting like KITV and KIKU? It would mean narrative sovereignty on a scale we have never held before. It would allow Hawaiian stories, language, and perspectives to appear in mainstream news every day. It would create new pathways for Native Hawaiian journalists and producers. And finally, it would align Hawaii with indigenous nations worldwide. I mean, if we call ourselves a Lahui, then we're going to have to align ourselves with other Lahui. And it's a form of self-determination and cultural continuity. So I just wanted to share those thoughts with you folks as we move into our decision-making today. Thank you, Chair.
Malo Trustee Galutaria. Chair Kahele.
I just wanted to add to Trustee Galataria's comments. You know, one of the things that came up after the board debated this issue was the ILM Media Group's announcement that they were potentially shifting away their focus from local television and toward other media investments, including digital media investments such as BuzzFeed and other digital media assets out there. And so the reality is that, to Chair Wahea's point, we do not know what type of motivated seller we have. We do not know what potential purchase price that may be. But the reality is that opportunities like this don't come around very often. And if the ILM Media Group is going to continue to reposition its portfolio away from local broadcasting opportunities, the availability of both KITV and KIKU may be temporary. So we have an opportunity to do the due diligence work we need on this. While maybe others are right now, or maybe others aren't. You know, we are a public government agency, and so everything is done in public. But I make no mistake, I think other potential buyers, to include national media outlets, could also be looking at this as part of a bigger package as the ILM Media Group diversifies some of its assets. And so I want the board to understand a couple important things. One, the asset is available today. Two, the seller appears motivated. Three, comparable opportunities like this are rare in Hawaii. And four, if the strategic rationale around this acquisition is sound as a result of the due diligence efforts that this organization would do, if we delay that, to Trustee Galataria's point, it could foreclose this option permanently. And so that's why I supported it then and continue to support it now, and appreciate the ILM chair bringing this back before the board.
Malo Chair Kahele. Trustee Huna.
Thank you, Chair. I also wanted to thank you for bringing it back. I totally support this. But before we even talk about purchasing anything, this is about due diligence. And this due diligence is very important to our people. Trustee Galutaria brought up self-determination. You know, when I was in Aotearoa, I learned a lot about the struggles of our Maori cousins, and you know, they felt like there were people that was be seen but not heard. And with the station, these opportunities were given to them to talk about their culture, to talk about themselves. This is how they recognize themselves. A lot of times we hear a lot of things in social media that we feel might be a support to our culture, but again, there's like missing things that make it bad. And for us, for me, it's about bringing out the truth, our language, everything. OHA is an organization that is riddled with a lot of issues and people talking about it. And this way, we can help our people. You know, we can provide information that they can better understand and make better decisions. Another thing that, for me, OHA is not the destination. OHA is just a journey. One day we're gonna have to hand this government or this governance over to a nation, and I just want to make sure that we provide these opportunities for that nation in our future. So, mahalo.
Mahalo, Trustee Ahuna. Members, any other questions, comments?
Yes.
Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. I'm hearing some of the comments of board members here, and at the same time, I've received a lot of mana'o and concerns from those in our community, our Native Hawaiian population, as well as speaking with those within the industry and their continued concerns on this. And one of my top concerns is how this could put OHA as a whole, as an entity, at risk. It would be different if we were pulling in 100 million to 150 million plus annually when it comes to our Crown and government lands revenue. However, we are far from that currently. And in talking with those in the industry, it's been stated time and over again that it's not what it used to be in the heyday, from radio to TV, from the 90s and before. And even when there's conversation about ad revenue, if ad revenue was so great, then there would be a lot of competitors pining for this opportunity as well. So with that, that's with the understanding that in its current form, and if the true intention is to get it up to speed to what we would like it to be, we would have to pour a significant amount of resources into getting it to where we would want to be. And currently, we are just not there. Again, I would feel very different if we were in the space where we were pulling in 100 to 150 million plus, somewhere more in that, those figures annually. However, we are far from that currently. We are still at 21.5 annually through the legislature. I'm open to hearing other mana'o as well. However, the continued concerns that I receive from those people within the industry, veterans in the industry, and those of our beneficiaries, I still have strong reservations on this. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Trustee Akaka. Trustee Aquino.
Thank you, Chair. I love the vision of innovation and serving the Native Hawaiian people in new ways. But I also want to make sure that we have wisdom. Makahana ka'ike, an old Olelo, which can roughly be translated, learn to walk before you run. There are many areas in which OHA needs to learn to walk well before we begin to run. First, in terms of competence. We have no competency in the industry of broadcast. And we have our plate full of projects that demand attention, not the least of which is Kaka'ako Makai. In the last several months, we've gone from talking about the building of apartment buildings to the building of a cultural center. And yet we have 10 years of wasted master planning and great amount of money and lost opportunity cost, and Kaka'ako Makai sits fallow. Development is an industry in which we have very little competence. And now we want to go after another industry in which we have no competence at all. Beyond this, also, learning to walk before we run entails taking care of our own house. We are in the midst of a publicly known lawsuit with our CEO. The implications of that for the cohesiveness of our organization and the morale of OHA are far-reaching. This is a time to learn to walk before we run. Makahana ka'ike.
Mahalo, Trustee Akina. Members, any other questions? All right, seeing none, the chair is now going to call for the vote. Can we get a roll call, please?
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
A'ole.
Trustee Akina,
A'ole.
Trustee Alapa,
Nope.
Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Chair Kahele,
Yes.
Trustee Lindsay,
No.
Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Souza.
Aye.
You have 5 yes.
All right, members, mahalo nui for your questions and comments, and look forward to moving on to our next agenda item. And seeing that our next agenda item was not needed because it was attached to the action item itself. If we need to go into executive session, we will defer it. Hold on 1 second. My guys, I'll be deferring it to the next ILM meeting. And so now,
Sorry, you're deferring for
the executive
A,
session.
for A.
A. Was that Trustee Lindsay?
No, sorry, that was 4A you're deferring, right?
For A, correct.
So we're
And now the
deferring
next-
the minutes?
Yes, which will include the minutes as well.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, members, is adjournment. If there are no testifiers, chair motions
So
to adjourn.
Chair, I believe when you asked for someone to speak, I believe Pikachu had his hand up, so I'm not too sure if.
Or is there someone else online?
Sorry, public testimony had ended, you said?
Okay. Yes, public testimony has ended. And there's no community concerns on this, unfortunately. Any discussion on the adjournment motion? All right, seeing none, call for the vote.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa, Trustee Galuteria, Chair Kahele,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Souza.
Aye.
You have 9.
Mahalo, members, motion passes. A meeting is now adjourned. Mahalo.
Okay, but members, we're gonna go into